This is a 2019 Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrid limited S appearance package. Lots of fancy words for, well, I suppose an advanced and kind of fancy minivan. Now, if you want a regular Pacifica, pricing starts at $39,000. Yes, before incentive, rebates, and whatever other gifts FCA might throw in the trunk to get you to leave with a Pacifica. You can get a limited trim for $56,000, but if you want a plug-in hybrid version, pricing starts at $54,000 and will go up to $59,500 for a limited. So that's the base price for my customer, which has a number of options. One of them, and I mentioned it, is the S appearance package, which includes black everything, blacked out black, everything's black, no chrome. Even these wheels, which are actual alloy wheels, not hubcaps, my friends. Kind of doubtful there on the choice. It also includes a Harman Kardon audio system, has all kinds of carpets, advanced driving assistance package, Uconnect Theater, which I'll show you in a few moments. Anyhow, bottom line, this is a $62,000 minivan. No, obviously, that's not what you're going to end up paying for it, because with federal and provincial incentives and everything else FCA will give you, it'll probably be between $10,000 and $20,000 cheaper than that. Now, the important stuff when you're shopping a minivan, this is what you want. You want an echo in the boot. This is with the second row up, 2,500 liters of space. When the third row is up, if you pull hard, yep, you're looking at about 915 liters of trunk space, if I'm not mistaken. By the way, the power hatch, obviously useful. That's available as of like the second trim in the non-plug-in hybrid Pacifica. Same for the power side doors. There you go. Also included in my limited is this lovely Napa leather. Can't overlook that. This is the Uconnect Theater for the kids with their own HDMI, USB ports, remote control, and headphones. There you go. I mean, this is the ideal vehicle for any road trip. And, well, oddly, I did do a road trip this week, but I seem to have misplaced my kids' seats. Hvac controls, and those screens, pull-out screens, very, very useful. Alright, so up front, there's an Apple leather again. I think I mentioned the Harman Kardon. That's a standalone option for my vehicle. Start her up. This is a lovely screen. It is configurable. You have all kinds of menus. Yes, I'm okay. Messages, all kinds of stuff there. There's your battery readout and your charge indicator. Your total range. This is Uconnect 4. As always, as user-friendly, as quick to respond, as lovely to use as any other vehicle. It's the 8.4-inch screen. Hvac controls, redundant here because you have them there as well. Very straightforward. I mean, this van has absolutely everything. I think there's even a popcorn maker down here somewhere. I'm not 100% sure. Space, storage, it's all here, though. There's nothing in there, I promise you that. Lovely little touches to try and make you feel like you're buying something that's actually retailing for $62,000. One point. Yeah, this is a heated steering wheel. This chrome line here, as part of the limited package, actually stays cold, which is annoying. I'm complaining. So this is a minivan, so you might expect it to behave like a minivan on the road, and you would be correct. There are a few things about the plug-in hybrid that make it different from a regular minivan. Anyhow, let's look into that. Now, what's great about driving the Pacifica plug-in hybrid is that it drives no differently than a regular Pacifica or any other minivan per se, with a few exceptions, obviously. One of the exceptions has not necessarily to do with other minivans, but has to do with plug-in hybrids. I've driven a number of them, and some costing 1.5 times more than this one have an annoying delay in the braking. In other words, when you're coasting and using the electric motor to slow down for the brake regen, and actual physical application of the brakes, there's an annoying delay, and or the brakes become extremely grabby right away. I'm in L right now, which is the highest level of brake regen. I'm off, and there's no such delay, there's no such gap or exaggerated response from the brake pedal. That may have to do with the fact that the brake pedal in this thing is absolute mush. Sure, you get used to it, but oh my goodness, do you have to really roll into it for the brakes to work. I mean, it's like fluff and then a little bit of grab, then more fluff, then it grabs some more. It's actually quite terrible. While I'm on the subject of negative points with the Pacifica plug-in hybrid, I'm going to bring up the fact that it's not quite as refined as I had hoped. I've driven the regular Pacifica, and it feels like the regular Pacifica, but in my mind, I had programmed myself to expect, well, because it's a plug-in hybrid, because you have electric range, because of the weight and all this, the ride is going to be even better, more comfortable, softer, plusher, and it isn't really any of that. So that's not necessarily a negative thing, but I'm slight disappointment, let's call it that. The other thing is, family and I did a brief road trip earlier this week, and the wind noise, as of about 95 or 100 kilometers an hour, is constant and sustained. It's really quite annoying as well. That was unexpected. I didn't remember that from the first Pacifica I drove. I suppose in the end, that's it. Everything else about the Pacifica plug-in hybrid is exactly as you would expect it. So you get the 3.6 liter V6 with the E-Flight electrically controlled transmission, not electronically, electrically controlled transmission. So that has the electric motor integrated in there, which means that your total system output is 360 horsepower, which is down some from the full gasoline-powered Pacifica, but torque numbers, which are typically unavailable for these plug-in hybrids, is not mentioned, but because you have access to that electric motor immediately from zero, I'm going to guess the torque number is a little bit higher than the 3.6 liter V6. The main reason why you get a plug-in hybrid is because of the battery, because of the electric vehicle range. So this thing has a 16 kilowatt-hour battery, which will give you up to about 50 kilometers of electric range. Excuse me. I'm going to be straight up honest. I haven't plugged it in overnight. It just hasn't happened. I haven't had the opportunity. I did plug it in 3 times. Once for just over an hour on a 240 volt outlet, so level 2. And it gave me an indicated 34 kilometers of range. Unfortunately, I was on my brief road trip, and less than a K or 2 later, I was on the highway, and that range just fizzled out right away. And that's probably one of the issues with the plug-in hybrid, in this particular plug-in hybrid, I should say, is that there are no drive modes. There are no battery save modes. There are none of those things. So the moment you leave your house, you're on full electric, you're like super fantastic, yeehaw, and the highway is 3 kilometers away, and you're doing a 60 kilometer trek. I don't know, I'm throwing numbers out there. But before you know it, you're out of electric range and you're depending on the V6. However, even with mine, it was about a 250 kilometer total little road trip, I'm still averaging between 6 and 7 liters. Actually, my peak was about 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers, which for a vehicle this size, this capable, is still fairly impressive. So the takeaway here is that, well, first of all, I mentioned it's ridiculously expensive. With the federal and provincial rebates in Quebec, for example, and the rebates you can expect from FCA, it becomes somewhat affordable. The bottom line is that, as tested, this one at $62K with the S package and all that stuff, don't bother. What's the point? It's a minivan. Plus, it doesn't really enhance the styling of the car. But otherwise, if you're the true soccer mom or soccer dad, and you do stick to the city for most of your travels, 50 kilometers of range actually turns out to be more than enough. You got all the space. You got, in this limited S+++ trim, absolutely all the amenities. So it's too expensive, but with the rebates, it's actually a good deal, which tells you how important those rebates are. And the range makes sense. The power is good. The drive is good. I can't conclude by saying I would get one because I really, really wouldn't. But it's actually not that bad.